Today, I want to talk about three different studies dating back, one of them dating back a long time. And what I want to do here is talk about the three studies. I'm going to summarize them pretty much each, but I want you to see how when you put them together, you can see in their entirety what is going on right now. So let me start with the Minnesota semi-starvation study. So this study was actually performed, and it's the intro to my book, When Calories and Cardio Don't Cut It, on Amazon. It was performed after World War II. And the purpose of it was to study what starvation does to the human body, because post-World War II, there was some famines going on. Indeed, my family, my dad is still alive. He remembers being rationed for years after the war. So they wanted to study, they weren't doing it for body composition, they weren't doing it for, to get your six pack. They were studying it with regards to starvation after World War II. And what they did was they took 36 healthy guys. The studies are always on guys. They won't do studies, and to this day, they don't do studies on women in childbearing years for obvious reasons. But it also, in a lot of studies, it can be problematic when they're always done on men. But anyway, this study was done on 36 conscious objectors to the wall, 36 healthy young men, healthy in mind and body. And what they did was they studied them for a few months at first before the semi-starvation. The semi-starvation lasted 6 months, I believe, and it was 1,500 calories. Now, obviously, we know that 1,500 calories, by a lot of dieting and intake, your protocols, that's not that low. But remember, these were guys as well. And they studied them for 6 months, and then they put them on a refeed for, I think it was 3 months, and studied that as well. And then actually, if you look it up on YouTube, there was a really interesting video where they found 6 of the guys. This was done a while ago, obviously, but they found 6 of the guys and they interviewed them when they were a lot older and asked them about their experience. So let's go about their experience. And again, I'm summarizing a lot because I want to cover 3 studies. If you want to read more about it, then, my book, When Calories and Cardio Don't Cut It, is the intro to that book. So when I wrote that book, I thought this study was fascinating and I included it in the intro. And then I read, the Obesity Code, and Jason Fung had also included the semi-starvation study. So that kind of validated my choice a lot. So what they did with these guys, 1,500 calories, and what they found was the basal metabolic rate in the end dropped by about, I think it was 40%. They lost a lot of muscle, depression, obsession. They became uninterested in other things. So they had partners and girlfriends. They became very uninterested in their relationships, very uninterested in sex. They would become obsessed with eating, watching other people eat. They would like to go to restaurants and watch people eat. They would like to go to the movies and watch food-related movies. They would get very interested in food and recipes, and several of them actually, after the study, went on to go into business regarding food businesses and catering businesses. They became very isolative. They became very ritualistic. So they would start eating their food in a certain way, these foods first, and they became hoarding food. They started hoarding food. They would also go through episodes of binge eating, shame. I'm trying to think of the word they used in this study, but they felt really bad about themselves, full of shame. Self-neglect as well. Hygiene went out the window for a lot of these guys. And this happened pretty quickly. So this wasn't just what happened to their body, because then that's about 20% of the body weight. That this wasn't just about what happened to the body. They were looking at what actually happened to the people in terms of their mental capacity, their enjoyment of life, etc. And all of them deteriorated. One guy had to be taken out of the study because he jacked up a car or something and dropped it on his finger, and he cut 3 fingers off. And so he had to be taken out of the study. That's just the level of emotional pain he was in. Then there was bulimia, there was binge eating, there was self-loathing. That is the word I was trying to think of. Self-loathing, lack of interest in anything else. It's all he could do. Now, This is absolutely representative of what I saw in the fitness industry and still see, where all they can do is focus on food. You'll see them, they're posting all their meals on Instagram and, oh, their newest recipe. And this is part of this restriction that's caused. The binge eating, the self-loathing, the isolative behavior, not interested in anything else, that all goes hand in hand with restrictive dieting. Now, what happened to the body here? Yes, it lost 20% of its body weight. Metabolic rate plummeted. And remember, this was these guys' first diet, and it was 1,500 calories. Can you imagine if they're doing, like, you bring this into the real world, can you imagine when people are doing these severe diets over and over again? This is one diet. So what happened to them? When they came off the semi-starvation, they had no control over their eating. So they were eating meals of, some of them, 5,000 calories. Their appetite regulators were shot. They had no idea if they were hungry or not. And they were eating huge amounts of meals, couldn't stop eating. All the regulators were burst. And obviously the weight came back. And I think it was on average plus 10%. Their metabolic rate did eventually recover, which it can, and their behaviors and everything reconciled in the end. But when they were interviewed about it, much later, the 6 guys they found, I think they were interviewed when they were in the 70s or something. And they said it was the most fascinating experiment that they'd ever done in their lives. It was the most fascinating study to see how their behavior changed. But my point again, this is one diet, which by many means is not super restricted, 1,500 calories. But what happened to them mentally and emotionally is profound. And yes, the body dropped a lot of weight, but where it took that person whilst it dropped that weight, and then the behaviors that ensued when they stopped the diet, the eating behaviors that ensued. And I've said it before, you've never seen anybody eat more than a post-competition fitness person. It's out of control. We knew this back in 1946, they started this study. Like an 800-page document on this. We've known about what chronic restriction will do to the body in terms of, and yet people go and do it again and again. And I just wonder, with regards to the weight loss medications, then are we going to see this? Because the body's still in a restricted place, right? Just because it's not hungry, it doesn't mean the body's not experiencing low calories over an extended period. Just because the person feels okay doing it doesn't mean the body's not experiencing this. So this is going to be interesting. There's definitely been reports of the reward centers being affected and people lacking luster in life and joy and things like that. But we will see. So that's one study, and I really summarized it, but it basically told us what restriction does on the body and how the body will balance itself out. But the emotional effects it had on those guys. And remember, one diet. If you're doing that, gain the weight back, and you do it again and again and again. There's some study said the average woman's done 20 diets. Which blows my mind. But gosh, with my competition, I probably did that. I'm probably right there. The other study I want to mention was a study that was done on hotel workers. And so first of all, just bear in mind, we know now from that study that what restriction does, not just physically, but emotionally. Now we talk about the hotel study, and much more recent study, and it was female hotel workers. And what they did is they took these hotel workers and they said, how do you feel about your health? How do you feel? Oh, I need to exercise more. I'm not fit. I'm so terrible. Oh, I know I need to do better. They perceived themselves as out of shape, unfit, shaming themselves again. I should do better. I know I'm not healthy, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Then they took half of this study, half of these ladies in this group, and they said the realization was, actually, because of your work, you're in the nth percentile of activity amongst people. Actually, you are incredibly active. compared to the average person. Your work dictates that you are moving all the time, lifting weights, doing this, doing that, which actually makes you an insanely active person compared to the norm. They only told us to half their participants. And what they actually saw as time went on was those ladies that now realized they were actually really pretty healthy and very active, they perceived themselves differently. They lost weight, they lost body fat, their blood lipids improved, blood pressure improved, resting heart rate improved, just because they now viewed themselves as healthier. So that study is talking about the power of belief. And if we don't believe with something, that really affects our results. We cannot be better than our thoughts. We cannot be better than our beliefs. And if our beliefs are poor, then our results are going to be poor. If we believe good of ourselves, then our results are probably going to be pretty good without changing anything. The power of belief is, again, profound. So then the third study, and I've talked about this in a prior podcast, and it's the rat and cheesecake study. And this is the study that took rats and let them eat normally. They're eating normal rat food and all is well in the world. Then they the rats eating normal food. They ate till they were hungry. The food was always there. They left it alone. When they were hungry again, they go back and eat some food. They didn't overconsume. Normal. Went and ate when they were hungry. Didn't overeat. Went away. Did whatever rats do. Then they gave the rats highly palatable, highly energy-dense food. And they put that there. And then the rats tasted that. And they're like, whoa, this is good. So now what's happening with the rats is they are eating nonstop. They're eating to their full. They're eating beyond that. Now, all the time, the healthy food their regular rat food is sitting right there, which they can go to. That's not going to get touched. And they've got their heads literally stuck in the food and eating beyond their appetite regulators, beyond eating till they're stuffed. Then what they did is they took the highly palatable, energy-dense food away. The regular food is still there. The rats have got as much of it as they want. It's always there. And what happened was the rats did not eat. They actually went to the point of almost death because they did not eat. What is this symbolizing? This is going to be the introduction when I start my Teenage Thrive program that I'm going to do. I'm going to do it. I'm going to start it. This so illustrates what's going on with, honestly, anybody under the age of 40, maybe even 42 years old. Anybody under the age of 40 especially has been brought up with processed food. As kids, they were brought up with microwaves and whatever and frozen foods and Pop-Tarts, etc., whatever. Me being 58, I was not. I'm not saying I ate perfect. There was plenty of sugar and butter, but didn't have access when I was young to high processed food. My point being, so what happened with these rats is when the fun food was taken away from them, they had access to other food. It was there. They literally could not eat it. Their taste preferences had changed so much that they were repulsed by the regular food, and they just wouldn't eat it. And they went to the point of almost death before they went to that food. Fast forward and think of the teenager that opens a fridge full of very healthy food and bawls, there's nothing for me to eat, and goes to bed hungry. The kid that's hungry but won't eat the vegetables on the plate. And so are they just being awkward? Are they just being problematic? Or are they the rats that they're so highly sensitized to the processed foods and the highly palatable foods that they're not just being awkward, not just being problematic. They literally are looking at that food and they can't eat it. They are repulsed by it, repulsed to the point that they'd rather not eat than eat that food. So now you get the parents who are frustrated, like, I'm giving all this food is available to my child, and you need to eat this, you need this, and the kid won't do it because they've been so primed by the highly palatable processed food that is everywhere. They're not just being difficult. They literally are being repulsed by those foods. That is anybody under the age of 40. And this is where I get adults and they really struggle with diet food, let's call it, like, or the patronizing people. They just need to eat healthy. They just need to health. It's not that easy. It's really not. Believe me, they don't even understand, like, why do some people enjoy salads and I can't stand them? Oh, and then that hooks into the belief system. Think back to the hotel workers. Now those people think, oh, I'm so terrible. I can't stick to diet. I don't like those foods. I can't even eat those foods. I am repulsed by those foods. And that builds this self-belief that's the word I'm looking for. That is false. It's just the food preference. Now, go back a few podcasts where food preferences are changed very quickly. Within two or three exposures, a food preference can be changed. But at that moment, the person is like, what is wrong with me? I can't eat this food. They're looking at a healthy plate of food in front of them and they can't even touch it. And they blame themselves. Now think about the younger generations. I've got some people I work with and they come to mind. And obviously I explain this and I explain how food preferences can be changed very quickly. But you see the problem here, that it's not just they're being difficult, all they need to do is this. It's not as simple as that. Now, I've got one person, and get this, they have worked in the entertainment industries, different companies, and the commonality is all these companies, they're now at Roku, they were at Netflix, I forget where they were before, but it was another company like that. All of them offer free food all day. All of them. Free food as much as you want, and there's apparently big canisters full of M&Ms and Snickers. You just put a little water in the paper cup underneath and fill it up with M&Ms and go back to your desk. Or it's there all day, every day. Netflix had a breakfast buffet, I think, once a week, full of pastries and as much as you want. Much as you want. I saw the menus for their catered lunches. It was horrific. Then they can also take as much food as they want. So if they want to take it home with them, they never have to grocery shop. And it's all free. So you get the whole thing of free food, which if you've been to Costco on a weekend, how irresistible free food can be for somebody completely grosses me out when I see that. Somebody with 6 kids and going to Costco for free food completely grosses me out. But I understand it. And then you've got people working in these companies where they're just exposed to this all day, every day, and it's free. Now this person's working for Roku, and get this. So for one, they have a happy hour on Thursday at 2:00. Yeah, happy hour, alcohol. So I said, wow, that's crazy. Most people are driving to work. And they said, oh no, that's not the worst of it. There's alcohol that's free all the time. There's fridges full of wine and beer. If you want to fill your Stanley full of wine, nobody's going to know and nobody's going to care because it's all there free. This blows my mind. I think they said there was the Netflix 20 or something like that, where everybody gained weight when they started working for Netflix. But this person that is really trying to get a grip on their body composition, but they're going into this environment which they're in all day, surrounded by the very thing that they're battling. And again, if you get somebody in their 20s, 30s, under 40s, that's been brought up with processed food, and now they're exposed to this highly dense, palatable food all day, every day, the struggle is real. It's real. So I was talking to this person, I was saying, oh, wow, imagine if you had an alcohol dependence. Imagine that you had that. And then you're going to work where beer and wine are just free. It was understandable. Anybody would understand that's going to be a problem for them. But to the same extent, what if you've got let's call it a food addiction? What if you are addicted to palatable food? As the rat and the cheesecake, they were addicted to palatable foods because that's what they were exposed to. Excuse me, I think I'm going to sneeze. Hold on. No, this needs to happen. And now they're surrounded by the something that they've got a massive relationship with, and now they're being told, or they're thinking, or they're going to some person to lose weight or whatever, and you just need to eat chicken and rice. You just need to have like protein and veggies. Shut up! It's not that easy. It is easy to change a food preference. It really is. But what if you're totally exposed to the very thing you've been battling your entire adult life, and probably being exposed to from a kid? So these 3 studies, and by the way, the rat and the cheesecake, the reason it's called the rat and the cheesecake, because they found that the most highly addictive food is cheesecake. It's the obviously the sweetness, the fat content, the texture of it. That was the most highly palatable food. I think a lot of us can agree with that. Now you put the 3 studies together and you look at society right now. We've got the weight loss medications. I have no dog in that fight. I really don't. I coach a lot of clients on it. I think the coaching is what's going to make their experience good or bad. Nobody seems to be coaching it, and I'm happy to coach that. But it's fascinating what will happen, because even though it's medication, what will happen with that restriction, that prolonged restriction? Yeah, they're doing it with ease because they're not hungry, and the other receptors of the more advanced medications coming out now, but they're still in a place of chronic restriction. So emotionally and mentally, what is that doing long term? Something to ponder. Then you've got this belief system, and we know when people have better beliefs about themselves, then their outcomes are always better. So maybe the people on the weight loss medications have a different belief system. They're now experiencing something they didn't know was possible. Maybe that belief system is good. Or are they terrified of not taking the medication and they've got like the imposter syndrome? Oh, I've got these results, but it's not really me. So their belief system is actually damaged. And then you get the younger generation who are experiencing maybe body composition and health issues that, and you've got those people that are maybe trying to do better, but are failing epically because of their relationship with these highly processed palatable foods. And this in turn damages their belief system because it's such a struggle. The dichotomy here is fascinating. Now, there's literally a positive outcome for all 3 of those. We don't do prolonged restriction. We've long known that there's ways around that. You can restrict, do refeed days, different ways to do. You don't have to go super low. In fact, that is going to alter your metabolic rate. Don't need to do that. Hitting yourself harder isn't the best way. We know that. So there's a positive outcome there. The belief system, you can alter it with people when you show them what's possible. But you can't just tell them, oh, you can be better. Write a few mantras out and say them out loud. It has to resonate with the belief system. And how do you do that? That comes with knowledge. That's how I coach. That's why I go down the rabbit hole so far on all the topics I coach. It's not because I'm just trying to ram as much information. I just feel like the more I explain things from every different angle, something's going to click, and then people will eventually see, oh my gosh, and believe what is possible because they have the knowledge to back it up. So the only way I think you can, under what is Brian Tracy said it. If you don't know Brian Tracy, looking on epic guy. Brian Tracy says understanding comes before belief. You can't just believe something new and just hope it's the case. Understanding comes before belief. So you have to understand what is possible for yourself before you truly believe what is possible for yourself. And that's where all the industries, the weight loss medications are failing, the weight loss industry as a whole has always failed on that. And the kids today are not seeing what's possible for themselves either, because they're in this constant battle with this relationship, and it is real and it is strong. I think that's what I'm trying to get across. It is really strong, this relationship with highly processed, highly palatable food. And when I was reading that now some of the food manufacturers are, because of the weight loss medications, they're actually making the foods, they've got a way of actually making these foods even more palatable. I mean, to counteract the weight loss medications, that's insane. And even with the weight loss medications, people aren't eating better because of it. They're eating less, but they're not eating better. So still, you've got that rat and the cheesecake effect, right? They're not eating as much, but they're certainly not looking at their regular food over there and thinking that's even close to being an option. So each one of these studies just highlights something that's going on right now in society. We could have just looked at 50 years ago, we could have just looked at the semi-starvation study. And that's what people were doing, restricting. We can definitely look at the belief system, because now we've got this online comparison with social media, and what AI is doing and what's real and what's not real is unbelievable. But unfortunately, that does impact this isn't just young people. This is altering what is we think of as normal. And if we don't fit into that, then that's damaging our self-esteem, our self-confidence, definitely our belief system. And now we're comparing ourselves to things that aren't even real. We knew the photographs were all altered, but now the videos are all altered. Again, how what we believe is possible is getting damaged by false narratives out there. And the food, again, I did a full full podcast on food preferences. But if this is speaking to you, or if this is speaking to your child, like I say, it's definitely anybody under the age of 40, 42. And maybe you're seeing this behavior with somebody you care for and you don't understand it, and you're trying your best to get them to eat better. This situation is real. They're not just being difficult. That healthy food you're offering them is absolutely appalling to them. And maybe let them listen to this podcast, or go back quite a few episodes where I did a whole podcast on the rat and the cheesecake. And the answer there is, once you get, preferences can be changed very quickly. So if black coffee, all right, black coffee, for example, don't like black coffee, okay, until you drink it about 2, 3, 4 times, and then a lot of people are like, oh, actually, I quite like it now. The first time people drink coffee, alcohol, or very dark chocolate, they don't like it. Don't like it. Within 2, 3, 4 times, they get a taste for it, especially the alcohol and the chocolate. That's why we call it an acquired taste. It is acquired over time, but it doesn't take long. You take a person that, I always use Kevin as an example, never ate a vegetable in his life. I forced him, nagged him, whatever, and now he likes vegetables. But the first time he doesn't like it, then, I kind of like those beans, I like that broccoli. And we can change food preferences, that's all I'm saying. But I think to do that, you have to understand it's possible. You can't just be like forcing chicken breast down your kid's mouth and be like, you're going to like it. No, just understand, hey, just try it again, try a few mouthfuls again. It will change. Now, obviously, the more overexposed you've been to highly processed foods, the more resistance you're going to get. But it is possible, and it's very doable. You just have to have a willing participant, and for them to be willing, they have to understand what is not just possible for themselves, but probable for themselves. And once they have that belief, just the belief alone, as shown in the hotel workers study, just that belief alone will have a positive impact on their body. Even before the behaviors kick in, that belief will have a positive effect on their health. Guys, I was thinking about this because, I need to start filming the Teenage Thrive program I want to do. And I've had 3 people this week ask about it. Just slammed with work. It takes, I've just got to sit down and film all this stuff and edit all this stuff. But I was thinking about it this morning, and I was thinking I want to start with this. Obviously, I'll expand on this a little bit. Because with younger people, and again, I don't have kids. I work with a lot of them, but I don't actually have kids. And it's a matter of, I don't want to tell them what to do. It's a lie. I do want to tell them what to do, but I don't want to approach this by just telling them what to do. I want to be like, hey, I just want to provide the information that nobody else seems to be giving you, and offering you the information in a progression so that you are in a better place to make your own choices. Because there's 3 stages in life. You go from being a child where you're told what to do. Don't do that. Don't do that. Eat this, eat that. You're told what to do, and that's what you do. You get a little bit older into maybe teenagers, and it becomes more of a negotiation. If you do that, we'll do this. If you get these grades, you'll do that. If you just eat this, I'll do this. It becomes more of a negotiation to get the behavior that you want from a teenager. But then you've got to, at some point, take full responsibility, and you make choices based on your choices. And what I find is that some grown adults don't get to that point. They'll still say things like, oh, I can't eat a carb. I can't eat sugar. I can't. Who told you can't? Is it like some big authority above you still telling you what to do? You're not a child anymore. You can do what you want to do. So what I'm trying to do here is prep the younger generation, not by telling them what to do. They've already been through that stage in their life. Not by making a negotiation. You could try and do this and this is good. No, just give them the information, and at some point, it's going to be up to them, right? At some point, they're going to make choices based on what they want. And all I'm wanting to do with, honestly, the younger generation and all my adult clients is provide them with the knowledge that they need, enough knowledge that they can make better decisions based on what they know and understand as truth. That's all. And the hope is that people end up with enough knowledge and understanding. They make better choices themselves without being told what to do. That's why I've used a blood glucose monitor for decades in my coaching, because when somebody sees they eat something and their blood glucose goes to 220, you don't really have to tell them that they probably shouldn't eat that anymore. It scares the bejesus out them. They do that. So that's the beauty of things like these tools, the blood glucose monitors, and I've been using them for decades. I remember one guy, he came in Santa Monica and he'd had chicken sliders, and his blood glucose went to 165. And he's, what on earth? I'm like, well, he says, you only had a little bit of the bread. I'm like, it wasn't the bread, it's whatever sugar was in the chicken, whatever sugar sauce they had that chicken soaked in or injected it with, whatever. And I didn't have to tell him not to go back to eat those sliders again at that place. He understood it. He didn't go back. So you see, understanding comes before belief, and belief comes before actions. Anyway, that was just my thought of today. I woke up thinking about this and thought I'd share it. And hopefully those studies just illustrate different aspects of behavior and how in some way they're intertwined and very relevant to what I'm seeing going on at the moment in society. Guys, my next program is Tight 28. Tight 28 is coming up July 6th to August the 2nd. Tight 28 is my least popular program. No dairy, no sugar, no soy, no gluten. For 28 days. What am I going to eat? The foods are great. Food sensitivities are a real thing, and food sensitivities can really hold people back, and they can really cause a lot of weight that simply doesn't need to be there, because a lot of the weight is bloating and inflammation and water retention. So when you take those foods away, I can get very rapid results in the first week of that program, and it's just not that hard. It's just not that difficult. But it's more of an advanced body composition program. I start talking about cardiovascular, which exercise is the best for your goals if you're trying to maintain muscle. And in this one, I'm really focused on the cardiovascular. I did muscle month. And not that we don't talk about resistance training, but on this one, I really focus on the cardiovascular side of things. And we talk about liver health, kidney health, heart health, a little bit of deeper dive, like basically going beyond the macros on what other influences can be altering your body composition or causing a stall. Again, 28-day program. The website is tight28, the number 28, tight28.com. Check it out. The full curriculum's in there. Although honestly, I've got a lot more topics to add to this year's program. So what on the website isn't all I'm going to cover. But thoughts for today: Minnesota Summer Starvation Study, the hotel study, and I coined it the rat and the cheesecake study. You guys have a great weekend. Actually, I'm not sure when I'm going to release this, so have a great day.